Hello everybody. Got the lights turned down because it was way too bright in here with all of them on. So hopefully you guys can actually see. Hopefully my tripod doesn't fall. Okay, so we just got back from looking at a couple houses. One of them was a really big property with all the right fences and outbuildings and everything like that. It was pretty fun to see. Hey Willow Creek, how are you? And Stony Creek, we're hoping to go out and see Stony Creek. So if you guys want to see what a rural homestead in our area looks like, go see, hold still, Stony Creek Heritage Farm. He's actually doing some really neat things near us, and we're hoping to go see what he's doing. Even if all he does is tell us how to keep our animals alive here. First Fruits Homestead, hello. Smallwood, hello. I did come on about 15 minutes early because I saw that I was slowly fading into just wanting to go to bed. So what I'm doing tonight is I have some bigger skeins of yarn. One of them is Targhee and Merino, and then the other one is just plain Merino. And so John Wolf said, what is this channel about? This channel currently is about trying to learn how to homestead while you're in an apartment, and it is difficult. It is difficult because you take into account being nice to your neighbors by not having really loud livestock in the attic, which we're working on. We still would like to try quail in the attic, but I'm trying to be very thoughtful of the neighbors, and quail do talk a little bit. Not a huge amount, but they talk enough that you can really hear them. Probably not that much louder or more often than like a parrot would, but they are consistent with how much they talk. So quail is something I'm kind of tiptoeing around at this point. We have a little bit of time to play with it. So what else do we have going on?
It's about our lives.
Huh?
It is about our lives and our quests and our...
Yeah, we come from a homestead in Idaho where we were homesteading on 1.5 acres, and then we went on a road trip for a year to go see other people's homesteads and tiny homes. After the road trip, we went back to Idaho and lived in a tiny house that we fixed up on the inside, and we lived off-grid. Have done that for the last 2 years, so we lived off-grid in the summer and fall, spring, summer, fall, and then we've been in Tulsa with a backyard rental homestead last year. And this year we're trying it in an apartment to see if you can homestead in an apartment. So we're trying to get the full gamut of experience and the full gamut of excuses on why we don't grow our own food. Willow Creek said, Idaho misses you. Well, my mom said that there is a lot of snow and bitter weather there right now. My mom's wishing she was in Tulsa. Hello, Kathleen. See if I can get this undone. So I have not set this yarn, and this one is looking like it's going to be a pain in the butt. It has just a little more twist in some of its parts than will be easy for me to work on here. So I'm going to use this one. Hello, Eddie. Hello, Ashy. And let's see, Slightly Vegan said I would like to hire someone to sew me a custom duvet cover. All you have to do is take 2 flat sheets, and sew them together on 3 sides. And there you have a custom duvet cover. Well, it's really simple. You can even just do it by hand. And then you just turn it inside out and iron it if you want to, and there you go. Let's see, Slightly Vegan said, my apartment lettuce is kicking it on the balcony. That's awesome. Where are you at, Slightly Vegan? I know this is the time of year to do that kind of thing, like if you're in Arizona or maybe even here, because balconies would get too hot in some places in the middle of summer. Not that lettuce likes to grow in the middle of summer anyway, but one of the places we went to see today had a very big, fancy, expensive house and a really pretty terrace system in the back, and it was just really cute. And there were parts of the house that would not make an easy garden, but you could put fruit trees in tubs, pretty like wine barrel tubs on the side, and thus have some more self-reliance from that. They also had some kind of like pagoda type thing over the back porch that was large, and you could go grow grapes up that. Sandra Clark is here. Hello, hello. And she has, I think you're showing that on Facebook. Sandra Clark has a Facebook page, and she's showing pictures of her microgreens. Yeah, San Diego would be the perfect place, wouldn't it? Because it doesn't get, you don't get that heat because you have the breeze coming in. I lived in Riverside for a little while, and sometimes, I don't remember if we cursed San Diego or if we cursed LA, but apparently we got all the smog, and San Diego got all the beautiful ocean breezes. Let's see. So what I'm doing.
Sorry, Farmall Fanatics, I forgot to turn on Super Chat.
Hey, Farmall, I don't know how to do it from here. Sorry, I don't know how to turn it on from my phone. How are you, Farmall? It is good to see you. Hey, Tom Brown. Okay, Green Raven asked, did we look inside the house? Yes, we did look inside the house this time. There wasn't much to see on the outside. They did have some pretty landscaping, but the yard was quite small. And so pretty much the selling point on this one was the house. And one of the things we talked about that I'll show in the video is using a big house like that as a source of income, using extra bedrooms as an Airbnb, using extra bedrooms as an apartment for more of a long stay renter, roommate. When I lived in California, that was really common, that people would rent out an extra bedroom and use of the kitchen to young adults who were maybe going to college or were young and newly married. And I stayed in we called them home shares. I stayed in one of those when I lived in Riverside, California, because it means that you can supplement your income and not be wasting that extra space. Carrie said, I can't live any further than 10 minutes from the ocean, but not hard here in Australia. I'm sure. John thinks it would be fun to go to New Zealand sometime, and he likes the sound of the climate there. Let's see. Let's see.
North Australia, probably, yeah. Oh, a little bit ahead
Farmall
of
says
you,
they're
Dan.
doing.
Catherine's here.
Hey, Catherine. Oh, I lost my comment. Where did it go? Okay, let's see. Farmall said you go to the advanced setting prior to hitting the go live blue. Oh, thank you for letting me know. I actually take these programs, I take Facebook and I take YouTube off of my phone after my live show every single week, because otherwise I spend too much time on them. And so every week on Saturday I have to re-upload YouTube and Facebook, and it means that a lot of times my saved settings aren't there, or that they change things and I don't really get it. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out.
Do you want me to get the computer and bring it over the Super Chats?
No, I've just got a bar right here so that I can't really see it all. Okay, Slightly Vegan said something.
Are you set on raising animals on your homestead?
Yes, I am set on raising animals on the homestead just because I generally get along with animals better than I do with people, at least in real life. I love people, but I definitely struggle in large group settings and that kind of thing. So even if I didn't raise animals for food, I would raise animals for company, and I love goats. I love goats and horses and rabbits and chickens and that kind of thing. Let's see. Hey, Planet Farm. Off Grid Lifestyle is here. Hello, hello. I just cannot read this very well. Okay, Donna said, hello, Dirt Patch. This is Donna from the Homestead out in Arizona. Close to the Grand Canyon. I love your shows. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm glad you made it into a live stream. Kathleen said, the older I get, the less I want people. I know, right? People, we just complicate things. Okay, so what I'm doing is making really small little skeins of yarn for Catherine. Catherine has the channel Little Bits of Heaven Homestead. And what I'm wanting to do is make her up some little skeins that she can dye with the new dyes and see if she likes them. And this way she can play with a bunch of different skeins. And she is working double, triple, quadruple shifts right now with her homestead and with her work. And so I spun it up for her so that she doesn't have to try and get to it when she has so much else on her plate. So these are my tiny little skeins that I'm going to send to her and let her try her hand at dyeing. If I'm missing anything, let me know, babe, because yes, this is hand spun.
Karen McCall says, evening all, have you made a decision on your house yet? I guess which house? The one here or the one up there?
Well, you've seen, I think you guys have seen 3 now. Three houses, I think, so far. And we are still looking around here. We're not in an extremely big hurry because we have the lease here until August.
And we always keep our word.
Do we?
Not so far, I guess.
The situation here with this apartment is that the last person in this particular apartment was only here 6 months, and we had talked to the landlords that we have now, and she was.
They're accepting if we.
They're accepting if we're not here for a year.
We could make addendums.
Yeah, we would lose our deposit, obviously, but. I don't know. That was my understanding anyway, from what you had said, was that they were.
I told her right off the bat that this may not be
the full year.
Yes.
That we were planning on. So if we found the perfect house, we would go to our landlords and say, hey, we found the perfect house, and can you let us out of the lease? But we're not actually pushing for that, as far as being in a lot of anxiety about having that be the case. We're trying to be really circumspect about the way that we look for the house. We want to make sure that all the details are perfect if we did want to be in it before August.
Because you want a third time to be a charm.
So we have found at least one place that we really liked and we're really tempted on. But the price is high enough that we feel like it's not worth going to our landlords and saying, can you let us out of the lease a few months early? So it's exciting to look, and last time we were in a little bit of a hurry because we were between houses and we did have livestock that were kind of spread out, and it made us anxious to get into something. And we did get into a good house, but the property that came with it was not fantastic. It needed a lot of work, the property itself. And that was really stressful. So this time we're trying to really make sure that we're getting exactly what we need. Let's
Planet
see.
Farm says in North Carolina making videos on this. Sweet. See, Kathleen Harrison Moses says, Julie, will you be attending any gatherings or conferences this year?
I won't be unless I go to, the only one close enough would be Doug and Stacy, off-grid with Doug and Stacy, or the Baker's Creek one in Missouri, because those are within like 8 hours.
Is that the Baker's Creek one?
Yeah, is that 8?
3.5.
Is it 3.5? So that would be where we would go, because it would be a one-day thing, and we wouldn't set up a booth, we wouldn't go in, we wouldn't be speaking, we would just be there to walk around for a couple hours, and if people recognize us, we could say hi. But
Do you want to talk about next weekend?
oh, we're going to be at the Tiny House Conference in Oklahoma City. Oh, okay. We will be at the Tiny House Conference in Oklahoma City
Next weekend.
this next weekend. And Deke Dietrichson, who was one of the first Tiny House pushers, I guess, makes him sound like a drug dealer. He will be there, and he said it was the weekend of the 17th, and I'm not sure why he said that. If it starts on the 17th and goes through the weekend, or if it's just on the 17th, I would have to look into that. I don't know much about it. He invited us to come. He has a new book about tiny houses that he's putting out, so he wanted us to review the book. Hopefully it gets here soon before the conference so that I have a chance to read it, but he's going to get us in without having to pay for tickets or anything, and we're going to go in and probably do some videos with him, which will be kind of fun. I think we haven't seen him since Georgia, not last year, but the year before. We saw him in Georgia, and it was super fun when we saw him. It was kind of like seeing one of my heroes walk out of the television, because he's someone I'd been watching for years. And the fun thing was, when I introduced myself, he's like, "Oh, Dirtpatcheaven, I know you." And I'm like, "No way, he knows me."
No.
It was so
way.
crazy. So that I don't know. I'm tired tonight. You can probably tell.
Okay, Anita Johnson says, "Oh, I vote for Doug and Stacy. We already have our tickets in Airbnb."
Oh, I hear they have some really fun Airbnbs around there. The one that Catherine stayed at, Okie Girl, I don't know if not Catherine, Bobby. The one that Bobby stayed at was pretty neat. And we found another nice one, I think, didn't we? The one we stayed out that was the little cowboy cabin. Do you remember that one?
In Missouri?
Yeah. You don't remember
Cowboy cabin? I remember
it? It
the
had
one
like,
with
they had chickens
I
and...
remember the one with the guitars on the walls. That one was
Did that one have guitars on the walls? Maybe it did. I just remember that it was, we got in pretty late at night, and we were trying to figure out who was going to sleep on the couch and who was going to sleep on the bed.
Yeah, that was...
I think it would be fun to go see Doug and Stacy and see what they're doing. Theirs is held in an old theater there in town, so rather than being out at their homestead, it's a theater, I think, just because it has air conditioning in a Missouri summer. But also they needed to have seating for everybody, and it was the only place they could really handle that many people. Yeah, advocate is a better word than pusher, isn't it? If you're talking about something. Off-Grid Lifestyle said, "Honestly, we are your fans." Thank you. Sorry, I am staring off into space. I am a little brain dead. Let's see, what else? So Baker's Creek was fun. We find it kind of exhausting to sit at the table and try to take stuff to sell, because you kind of commit for how long you're going to be there, and it can be all day. I guess it's not actually too late. If we wanted to call them and say, "Hey, we want to be speakers."
That was fun. Well, if you want to be a speaker.
Because I know we were supposed.
Really...
we were supposed to talk to the girl from Baker's Creek the beginning of January.
Yeah.
Could I be speaker?
You may not be a speaker. So there's my little teeny tiny skeins that I'm making for her. Okay, Anita said, "I think maybe we sat by Bobby last year. We're staying at Tacey's place on 6th. And that was in Missouri? Oh, no. You're talking about Doug and Stacy's. Gotcha. I know that she had some really, one of the places she went, they had goats and homemade wine, and she had a lot of fun. And then she had another one that was a large family with some exchange students, and they fed her dinner. It kind of depends with the Airbnb thing. Sometimes they really want to interact with you a lot, and they want to make dinner and they want to talk. And others, they're just like, "We don't actually want to meet face to face, but if you start to scream, we'll probably hear you and we'll come help." So it's kind of the two extremes. I don't think we've had anybody that was really in between. Usually they're like, "Hey, let's hang out and be friends," or they're just like, "Stay away. Evil." You know, that kind of thing. It's kind of how Natalie is over at Namaste Farms. She's so funny. She talks about how much she hates having Airbnbers because she feels like they're in her space. But then she goes out and like makes them birthday cake and makes sure that they have as many duvets as they need, and she'll make waffles for you. So she's so funny the way she complains about it, but I think secretly she loves it because it gives her one more thing to be a perfectionist on, and she has so much energy that it just, she needs something to keep her just a little bit busier. And so she's actually a queen of hospitality, and yet she complains about it so much. It just cracks me up. Let's see. Kathleen said, oh, she's talking to Hare. All right. Do I need to push thumb down?
Only on your own.
Arrow down? No,
Okay,
arrow down.
The blue button?
Yeah.
Yes, push a blue button.
Okay.
Let's see. Smallwood Homestead is out. Apparently he's getting ice on his internet. So Michael R is into his house.
Okay, Julie said, don't get the flu, it's horrible. Been flat out in bed for a week or so. We got that a couple weeks ago, and we were out for a long time. We were super sick. Let's see. Carrie said, have to thanks for the live. I agree with others. Take your time finding your home. See you soon. Thanks, Carrie. Why does it do this where it so quickly disappears?
Wait, was that Terry? Is who Terry?
Let's see. All right. So I've only got 2 of these started, and I did not count them.
Wee Tree's in the house.
Hey, Wee Tree. Oh, I
And
didn't see
to
her.
answer your question, Wee Tree, it's because we're still so loved.
She is loved. We really appreciate her. She was with us even back in the days when we were Danny and Wanda. She was our main moderator.
In our hardest times.
Yeah, it was
So,
hard times, and
and
she was
there.
really there. How is it?
Michael R says he really liked the stone house.
You like the stone house? We like the stone house. The one we saw yesterday was actually better, though. Wasn't it? It was brick. It was brick?
No, it was
The
stone.
one yesterday was?
It was stone, but instead of gray stone, it was colored stone.
Was it? So the other one we
Copper
saw yesterday that we liked the most, and the
Yeah,
one
I
we're the
love
most
that.
like, I think this would be maybe, if we, maybe not, but the one we were the most excited about yesterday also was stone. Let's see. Who is the male talking? The male talking would be John in the background. He's looking at his big computer since it's a little easier to read.
I am the sole male in this house. So.
Yeah. So, and we've seen some great places, but we've only seen one where everything was in place. Immaculate, strong, well thought out fences, enough property, already has sheds for animals, has a house that has not been damaged, and is functional. We wouldn't have to make any changes to it, and a pretty decent distance for John, so he's not having to drive quite so far as some of the others that we've seen. So,
For instance, the one that we just got done with. That
we just got done with
you
was
guys
really
will have
far.
a great video on, but yeah, it's about an hour drive each way.
All right. So that is what's going on. And I'm kind of enjoying these live streams. When I was trying to do daily videos, it was really difficult to also do live streams, but where I'm doing fewer videos right now, I find the live streams quite nice. So I appreciate that you guys tuned in. It's really funny because Doug and Stacy are only a few hours away from us, and it looks on their Instagram, it looks like they're under 2 feet of snow, 2.5 feet of snow right now, with, I think they said 8 more inches coming tonight.
Whoa.
And here we are in Tulsa, and we've had a little bit of rain the last couple days, but our temperatures are going to be in like the 40s and 50s, and so.
Joe Serrano says, long time no see. Greetings to me, the girls, and you.
Hello,
So,
hello.
Let's see. Mandy Jensen, it floored me when you said John's commute is 8 minutes. That's unheard of here unless you live where you work. It's actually 12 minutes, and we kind of basically lived around the block. But
Yeah. He lives
It's
right
been- it's
smack
nice.
dab in between work and school. So when he comes from school, he can stop and get lunch and then go to work. So you're sure you think it's 12 minutes to work?
Yeah, it's 12 minutes.
So
because of
12 minutes to
traffic.
work and 12 minutes to school, both on either side of the house.
Mhm.
So we planned it out very carefully. It may sound like, well, if you didn't want to be in an apartment, why did you get into an apartment? But we did it purposefully. I was in the little rental house we were in here in Tulsa before. We weren't next to any bike paths. We weren't next to any grocery stores, and we still only had one car. or well, we had a friend we were borrowing a car from, but we were trying not to put a lot of miles on it. So coming back this fall, I wanted to make sure we were close to all the things we needed to be close to, that John was still close to work and school, and so we picked the perfect place. And I did want to see, how hard is it really to homestead an apartment? Is it in any way, shape, or form possible? And really, if I were to dig down and really go a little bit crazy for a couple months, I probably could legitimately raise meat rabbits in the attic, and I could legitimately raise quail in the attic for meat and eggs. But I would have to do some major, I'd have to put up a lot of plastic in the attic to protect walls and floors. I don't know how we could soundproof it well enough.
Slightly Vegan is saying, is Doug, of Doug and Stacy, always dressed in period costume?
It's actually not his costume.
Correct.
He's always dressed like that because that's actually how he dressed in real life. I've never seen him in jeans and a t-shirt. I've seen him in his regular pants and like an open dress shirt, I think, with a t-shirt underneath. But I've never seen him without everything that you see him wearing. And he dressed like that back in the day before they had a real YouTube channel. Back in the day when we started our channel.
And trust me, Julie would know this.
I would know this. They used to be called Growing in Faith Farms, and they would come in and just like comment on my channel. And then they started their channel and they started putting up a video here and a video there, but they weren't really trying to grow their channel. They were just on there kind of chatting. And what happened was that they had a need to put in a cistern, but Stacy had found an alpaca farm where they were just going to put the animals down rather than sell them, and she couldn't bear to see that happen. So they bought an alpaca herd. They bought a herd of alpaca, or flock of alpaca. Is it herd of alpaca or flock of alpaca? But they bought like 20 alpaca, brought them to their farm, and because they bought the alpaca, they didn't have the money to put in a cistern for their water harvesting, so that they had water. And that's how I really got to know them a little bit better, was that we started talking about what they were trying to do. They set up a GoFundMe, but instead of just asking for free GoFundMe, they were sending out all this alpaca fiber, beautiful alpaca fiber, so nice. They had so much of it. And so when people would donate to their GoFundMe, they would send them these boxes of alpaca. And I think I got like 4 apple boxes from them of alpaca. And I paid them for it, and they used it towards their fund for their cistern. And that's kind of how we got started together as friends. But yeah, she's always wearing dresses, and he's always wearing those very comfortable looking clothes, and he smells like wood smoke. When you meet him, he smells like they cook with the wood stove and they heat with the wood stove, and when you do that, your clothing smells like wood smoke. And that's how you can really tell when it's the real life, is how you smell. If you smell like animals and you smell like wood smoke, and your clothes have manure on them, you're the real deal. It would be very hard to fake that. I know some people say that they think that that's not legitimate, but it's totally legitimate. That is really who they are. Okay.
Mandy Jensen says we currently live in a townhouse, looking to purchase property next year. We will be lucky to get a half acre for 1.2 mil. That's incredible.
Yeah, we couldn't look for it in town. We definitely couldn't look for it in town. Everything we see is at least 20 minutes outside of Tulsa that we can afford. Oh, gotcha.
She says, "Oh, this isn't town, LOL."
What isn't town?
That property she's looking at.
Oh, gotcha.
Let's see. Hare says, talking to Plant Planet Farm, was just talking to a friend about quail and rabbits, because I live in an urban neighborhood.
Let's see, We Tree Bonsai said that Stacy wears jeans. I have seen Stacy wear jeans. I saw her wear them in a video they did about bucking hay. So yes, I have seen her in jeans, but I'm not sure that I've seen her wear them on a daily basis. But if you know her in real life, I know her primarily from videos. So if you've seen her in real life and you see that she wears jeans more, then you would know better than I do, for sure. But I've only, at least from what I've seen her in person and on video, I think I've only ever seen her wear jeans for bucking hay. When it would be really not safe to be wearing skirts, you'd trip yourself up and all that kind of thing. What?
Donna Hong says, "Are you going for the last house you posted?"
No, that would not be the one that we would go for. I think we're a couple weeks out from showing the one that we would really like to get. I'm not necessarily backlogged so much as I'm trying to put up only one of those videos a week so that you guys don't get kind of burned out on them. We have not picked a house yet. We are not committed to a house yet. We are still looking, and we're glad that we're still looking, because a lot of the houses that we saw in the beginning, the ones we've shown you, did have some things wrong with them. The stone house, for instance, the gray stone house, that one was overpriced by quite a bit. And what the realtor warned us about was that we would never be able to resell it for what we had into it because of the age of the house. The property was nice, the fences were okay, but they owe very little on that home, and because they owe so little, they want to sit on it until they get the price that they want, and it's also in a trust, and so they have multiple people chiming in on what it should be sold for. What?
And Jensen says, "A couple of weeks, I want to see them now." I love houses.
Well, I would like to put them all out now, but I feel like I'm kind of getting into my groove a little bit on what I'm wanting to show in them. I feel like the videos are getting better as I go along, and we're getting better at picking the ones that we don't want to see. We're better at looking at them and saying, yeah, that one's, we don't even need to bother looking at that one. And we're trying to show some variety. Like, for instance, the one we went and looked at today. If we were to get it, we would be buying it with it set very much in our minds that we would have somebody in the house renting one of the rooms, because the mortgage would be too high for us to be able to handle on our own. And I don't really think that's wise. It's not something we would do. But if we were to find a house that was in a good price range for us and close to town, and it had a lot of extra rooms, that's probably what we would do. We would use rooms as an Airbnb. I've always really felt strongly that if you're going to have a mortgage, make sure that you find some way for your property to pay you back. It's one thing if you can go in and pay cash and not have that payment every month. It's another thing to have this huge payment and have the house just sit there requiring more work and more maintenance and never paying you back. I feel that strongly.
So this is the on-grid version of, how would we say? Yeah, making your property pay for your.
Yeah, make your property pay for yourself.
We are not the on-grid type, so you much prefer an off-grid lifestyle, or towards that.
And I don't mind having somebody come and have an Airbnb off-grid. If that's the experience that people want, is off-grid. It's one of the reasons we had the little off-grid cabin, was that we wanted to offer that experience to people on our property if we were living in our house back in Idaho again. Am I missing things? The sentences keep disappearing on
Mandy
me.
seems to have you paid pretty good.
What?
She says your commentary to yourself was cute in the last bit. Focus, Julie. The house.
Well, I was really frustrated. I started to edit it, and it took me hours to edit it because I kept going back and being so dissatisfied. I'm like, why didn't I have the camera pointed at myself? Why am I like staring at the ground the whole time? And then I got to the end of the video, and I thought, well, I must have missed some footage here, because I haven't shown the bathrooms and I haven't shown the bedrooms. And then I went and looked through all my footage, and I realized I hadn't taken any footage of the inside of the house except the grow light and the greenhouse.
Which was all the important things.
Which was all the important things. But I will admit, when we did get find a house where everything was taken care of and it hadn't been empty, the house smelled nice, it was warm, the lights all worked, it felt lived in instead of like it had been cold and empty for months. That was a house where I wanted to go in and look at the house, and I walked through it several times. It also had a really nice sunroom that could be used as a summer kitchen. So I saw that maybe the reason I don't care so much about the inside of the house is maybe I'm kind of closing my eyes to it because some of them are bad enough that I don't want to see the house. I don't want to look at it and think of all the work that it needs. And so maybe it's like a Freudian type of a slip where the reason I don't take a video is because I'm not enchanted by the house.
Slightly Vegan is asking, have you considered raising tilapia?
I haven't. I have mercury toxicity from immunizations when I was a child, and I have a difficult time getting rid of mercury. I try really hard not to up my levels of mercury on purpose, and so I don't eat fish unless on very, very rare occasions. And I don't really like having animals outside of a natural environment. For instance, when I keep quail, I like to keep them outside. I raised my quail out in the greenhouse with this tomato squash jungle for them to hide and play in. That's how I like to raise my quail, and they were so happy that they hatched out their own babies, even though those are not the kind of quail that are supposed to hatch out their babies. They did. Same thing goes for the rabbits. I never succeeded in having the rabbits be free range, but I would like to figure out how to have them be more free and in a more natural environment. A lot of the food that I gave the rabbits was grown on my property, and that was the best I felt like I could do to give them an abundance of varied food, like what they would eat if they were free range. Same thing with the goats. I tried to keep them out on pasture as long as I could until the snow was too deep and I couldn't. And so with tilapia, I think if you're in a warm enough environment where your outside water doesn't freeze and you can raise them like that, I think that makes more sense to me. I know some people try to show systems where they turn the tilapia into an aquaponics gardening type of a situation. I've seen it. I don't know how successful it is. We also, where were we? Were we Arizona at the really huge greenhouse that was like the space station greenhouse?
Yeah, it was out of South Tucson.
South of Tucson. There's this enormous experimental greenhouse in Arizona, and they locked them inside of it for a year. Was it 2 years or just a year?
It was a year.
I'll see if I can get the link.
Because it started out, they were trying to see if they could do a colony on Mars.
Yeah, it was an experiment to see if they could do a colony not on the Earth. Could they take seeds and everything with them and create capsules somewhere, and could you colonize another world? And so they went into these enormous greenhouses, and what ended up happening was they went in, and it takes a lot of land to grow your own food. They did go in with livestock, and so for a while at least they had livestock that was feeding them, but none of these people were farmers. They went in and they were scientists. And so when they went in, they were taking the best information they had, and it didn't necessarily show in street smarts, farm smarts, and it was a huge amount of work. They almost never stopped working in order to create enough calories to keep themselves healthy. They all lost a ton of weight while they were in there, and there just were not enough calories in what they took in to keep them in good physical condition.
So the farmers thing was a new, I think that's the first time that you've mentioned it in that light. Do you think if they would have had farmers there, that it would
The farmers would have said, there's no way you're going to get enough calories out of one pig and a couple goats for 8 people. They had, I think it was 6 to 8 people, and they had these gorgeous greenhouses, and they were working hard, long days, and it probably could have been enough calories if they hadn't actually been working as farmers on those calories. You need a huge, I mean, I think when I was homesteading, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 3,200 calories a day as a minimum in order to be working that hard. And what?
I was going to say, Catherine and Dabney Cruz have nailed it. It's the Biosphere 2.
Biosphere 2, yes. And it was amazing, and it was gorgeous, but...
And there is a video.
Yes, and I have made a video of it. I did a tour of it, and I asked all my questions. And the funny thing is that, like, even though they had breeding stock, eventually they got hungry enough that they ate their breeding stock, because biologically their bodies would look at those animals and just be so hungry that even though they knew they were breeding stock, they were going to eat those animals, because they also had to grow enough food in the biosphere to feed their animals. And it was a very intensive project, and it was the coolest thing ever. I thought it was amazing and brilliant and everything, but I think it probably gave them a lot more respect for farmers and the work and the sacrifice and the sheer number of calories that a farmer creates for the average person, and the quality of your calories. So anyway, I thought it was amazing and brilliant and everything, but I don't even know how we got on this topic. Oh, tilapia. So they did have tilapia systems there when we went, but they were set up by the local high school. The high school had set up a tilapia tanks, and they were growing strawberries and I think some greens. And so on a very small system, yeah, the tilapia totally worked, but was it enough for even one child to have more than one bowl of strawberries during the growing season? No, it was not sustainable, because for one person to have enough strawberries for them to eat in jam for the year, you need to have several beds of strawberries, because you're going to be eating strawberries fresh in the spring and summer, but if you actually want to have strawberries that you're going to turn into jam, you need a whole nother system of beds to feed you jam, because you have fresh eating for the moment, but you got to have all this excess for the winter months when you're not growing. And that was just me just rambling.
No, this is good. So not normal tree comes in and says, wouldn't eggs and milk provide enough protein and fat? Question mark.
If you had enough, yes, definitely. But they had like 8 people and 1 pig, and if you take into account that maybe you need a pound of meat a day, that, I mean, in order to work as a farmer, if you look at the old history videos that are on like BBC and that kind of thing, what you're seeing is these farmers who are eating these big slabs of bacon that are mostly fat, and they're eating, you know, a pound of butter a day each, and huge. I mean, when my brother was a teenager and we still had cows and we had goats and we had the farm and we were doing hay and that kind of thing, my brother used a platter, like a serving platter, to feed himself at every meal, because he would take multiples of everything and then pour gravy over it, because he was a 15-year-old boy and he was a farm boy. And to keep growing, and also to go out and do the kind of heavy labor he was doing, you're eating in well in excess of 3,200 calories. He was probably eating more like 5,000 calories a day, because of the type of manual labor he was doing. And the same would be for me. I had to eat we had 11s. I mean, in Hobbit form, we had breakfast, a lightish breakfast, so I could go do my morning chores, and then I'd come in at 10 o'clock in the morning and I'd make another meal, and then we would have lunch 2 hours later, and that would be my quiet time for the day after most of the chores were done. Is after lunch I could be in the house and take care of the girls a little more, and then we'd have a really big dinner. So, and then we'd be drinking milk and, you know, raw goat's milk in between, so a lot of calories.
Sounds like at least Miss Wanda's on it, not Danny too.
Hey!
Deep South.
Now, Deep South Homestead, we love these guys and we stay with them, so if you haven't checked them out, make sure to go check them out. Danny's the one who has said repeatedly that if you want to be self-reliant, as self-reliant as you can be, you need at least 10 acres. And
good news, we found that tonight.
we found that tonight. But we also would have needed a tractor. Danny has a tractor. He has a small tractor, and it's essential for what he does, because they do row crops, and he just needs it to maintain that kind of property. And he has the experience to be able to do it. For me, the reason I loved my 1.5 acres was because it was manageable, and it wasn't expensive to keep maintained once I had my systems in place. I would like to stay smaller than 1.5 acres as far as anything that needs to be maintained.
So Danny, one of them says, get a tractor going, you will love it. I was like, oh, I know, I've loved them.
Well, and we had a tractor, and some of the work that we did in the back pasture was with the tractor.
I inherited.
You inherited the tractor.
Tractor from my granddad.
But the seals were hydraulics. Which part?
It was the gear case. We had to tear out the axles and put new seals in.
Yeah.
And it would have just been really labor intensive, and it would have been fun to do. But it was a 65-year-old tractor.
Yeah, it was
and
old.
We could not find parts for it.
Yeah, it was just too much, and in the end we ended up selling it because it was never going to work. It was cheaper just to have our neighbor down the street pay him to come do the work for us. It just didn't have the horsepower also to even do a lot of even small stuff. It couldn't scrape very well.
Would've-
It wasn't heavy enough.
That thing tore up a lot of acreage in its life. I mean,
Right.
my grandfather bought it brand new, and then my dad used it through his entire growing up.
But on our property, it was too rocky. Every time we
Yes,
tried to
ours
do
was
anything with
rough.
it, it was too rocky and it couldn't get a good grip. I can't actually see my comments. Is anybody saying anything?
So a lot of people are asking about the Idaho property. What do we want to say to that?
So with the Idaho property, we have renters there. I will be going back to set up the watering system, and I have some trees that I need to take down this year because they're getting too close to the septic. And so we'll just feed those trees to the goats, and that'll be good. I need to go back and check on the little house, make sure we're not having mouse problems or anything like that. And I don't know if we're gonna sign a big lease with our renters again. It depends. If we get a house here, we'll sign another lease with the renters and let it be longer. But if we don't have a house here yet, then I don't really feel like if we're not gonna be here long-term enough to get a house, then I don't know how comfortable I am with signing a longer lease with the renters. So we haven't really decided. That it's one of the reasons we're still looking for a house now, even though we have a few months to go, is we're really kind of trying to figure out what to do with that other property as well. Okay, so this is how many skeins I have so far. Ready to send to Catherine for her to try her hand at some dyeing. I'm probably going to do her about 8 more. Are you trying to create a shadow?
Oh, she's trying to talk.
No talking. No talking. Nope. No talking. No talking. We have little kids who keep saying things they're not supposed to say.
Hyder says just found Dirtpatcheaven and really enjoying the channel.
Oh, thank you.
Danny's saying that, what was it? We bought a new tractor, now we're on a 4th one and still having issues. We should have bought an older one and took our chances.
I remember that. I remember when you got your first one and then you were so disappointed because it wasn't doing what it needed to be doing. That my dad had an old one. He had a John Deere, the big old green one.
Big old Deere John litter. Yes, it's a John Deere. And
Oh,
going
okay.
back to a Dumb and Dumber quote.
Okay, well, that's the tractor he had the whole time I was growing up. There was a limit to what it could do. My grandma had a new what's the blue one? New Holland?
That was a Ford New Holland, yeah.
Yeah, my grandma had a New Holland that was super, super nice. So when he had a really more delicate job that needed to be done, he'd still bring over my grandma's tractor. But for what he needed to do with it, the John Deere worked just fine. I drove the New Holland as a kid when we were putting in fence posts, but I don't think that I ever drove the John Deere except to
That was a
pull a
big one.
cow out
Oh,
of the
wow.
well house once.
Ouch.
No,
That
I
was-
think we used a Suburban for that.
Yeah.
We had a cow that fell into the battery bank for our solar panels when I was a kid. Because there weren't stairs yet, it fell into the well that was already built in. And we had to figure out how to pull it out. It didn't break a leg or anything, which was a miracle, but we had to figure out how to pull it out before.
And that was a big one.
Huh?
That was a big tractor. Sorry, you're talking Suburban stuff. I'm still stuck on tractors. 'Cause
It was a big tractor.
it reminds me of growing up when we were at my granddad's farm. We had an Oliver 1600, and that was a big tractor. They're quite comparable. And so
Did the cow drown?
after meeting your dad, and I think seeing the tractor the first time, it just brought back a lot of memories. So tractors. And
I almost
cabs.
killed somebody with that tractor. Yeah.
Building the house?
No, out doing fences.
Oh. Well, it's okay. Your dad almost killed me too. The post hole digger with that same
The
tractor.
post hole digger and all that fencing and stuff can be a little bit scary
Uh-huh.
with those chains and everything.
Yeah. Well, and I should say it was not out of his negligence or incompetence or anything.
It's just
It
that,
happened to pull a chain
Yeah.
out of the ground and almost wrap around me as it came swinging around at 40 RPMs. So
yeah.
70 RPMs, something like that. Let's see. Do your parents still live off grid?
They do not. When my brothers were young teens, there was a car accident that happened that left them both really, really hurt, and they needed to go into the doctors quite regularly, and we lived about 15 minutes out of town. And so after doing that for about a year of both brothers needing to be into the doctors quite frequently, my parents had to sell the homestead because they needed to be able to go to more specialists, and they needed to not be held down by cows and irrigation and watering and keeping the house from getting broken in when they were gone to these doctor's trips. So my parents sold their big, beautiful dream homestead when let's see, how old was Kaya? 18 months old? When Kaya was about 18 months old. No, because she was 18 months old when we moved into the Rigby house.
Right, so it was a couple, 3 years after that. You're probably 3 or 4, huh, Kaya?
But I remember that house.
Right.
So I must have been older because I actually remember that house.
And I think, anyway.
So that's when they sold it, was when family, I mean, sometimes things happen. Sometimes you have these dreams, and my parents had the perfect homestead. It was perfect. They had the fruit trees, they had the acreage, they had the perfect fences. They had some of the oldest water rights in that area, and solar panels and barns, and my dad worked from the house because he had his own office there.
High-speed internet.
But the most important thing to my parents was to take care of my brothers, and so they were willing to sacrifice everything they had done, everything they had built, in order to take care of my brothers.
Direct nuclear hit proof.
Yeah, we had a bomb shelter. We had a 500 gallon.
It was better than 500.
It was bigger than 500 gallon water storage tank in the well house. It was, we had, again, solar panels and everything. So it was pretty amazing what my parents had done. And yet it wasn't the most important thing to them. It wasn't something they were going to obsess about at the expense of taking care of their kids. Mm-hmm. So hats off to my parents for being really good parents, you know?
Planet Farm has to go, says have a blessed.
Thank you much. Thank you much.
Let's see. Kathleen Carrington Moses asked, sorry, second time now, what kind of yarn are you spinning again?
This one is, I'd have to look at it.
It's white.
This one,
Mom doesn't like it.
this one is full on merino, and this one that I'm working on right now is a blend of targhee and merino. And it is somewhere between fingering and sport weight, I think. And again, is going to be going to Catherine over at Little Bit of Heaven Homestead. And she will be playing with it and dyeing it once I get it to her.
Okay.
I'm making a mess.
A couple people are asking how your brothers are nowadays.
Still a work in progress. They had trauma to their heads. Both of them were scalped by the airbags, and one of my brothers was actually severed internally. His large intestines was severed, and he ended up losing 10 inches of his large intestine as a result of the accident. So they both have brain trauma, and one of them has digestive issues. My mom is just the king of research, and she has helped them. Neither one of them are on medication for anything. Everything that they have achieved since the accident has been through nutrition and things like reflexology and that kind of thing. She knows how to do everything. So it's just been research. She did the same thing with me when I was a really sick child. She helped us figure out what needed to happen so that I could live a full, healthy life, and now she's doing the same thing with my brothers.
Now that might sound a little bit extreme. They're not invalid.
But they could have been.
They could have
At
been,
the beginning.
Yes, but asking how they are now. So they are functioning in society.
But they weren't before she.
Correct.
They weren't. They were not functioning. The one who had the damage to his intestines, he took up qigong because he was having a hard time with tics, as far as not being able to focus on things and couldn't be out in public. And
facial tics, not tulsa tics.
right.
Okay.
Not facial tics. He learned how to do qigong so that he could control the way that his body moved, because the neural pathways from his brain to his body weren't working anymore. And he started doing qigong, and now he's in college. He can't ride a bike. He doesn't have the balance for that, but he can walk, and he is just, he's a stinking smart kid. And so both of those brothers are now in college. One of them lives away from home. The other one still lives with my parents. And, their side effects are things that most people probably wouldn't notice at this point unless you told them that there was an issue. So my mom, brilliant woman, just, she fixes things.
Let's see. Hider's out, so we're gonna hide her. There were a bunch of few, but we've had a big bunch of conversations since then.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to put kids in bed if we're ready to close it down.
I don't know. Audience, what do you think? Should we?
I say no. I guess say no.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing a whole bunch on. So.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close it down. All right. I'll try and remember to put the greenhouse link up for you guys, and I don't know if I'll have a video up for tomorrow, but I'll try at least on Tuesday morning. I'll try to have one up.
Oh, wait, sorry, they came in. What is the update on Paige's knitting? Paige, what'd you go?
I finished the dress.
She finished the dress.
Whole dress.
Let me.
No, just leave your doll. Leave it on your doll. You don't have to take it off.
I finished it and I sewed up the back and I put on a button. I was trying to show them without interrupting Mom. That's why she was up here, like this. And then the boots I made a long time ago when we were all sick. I made them out of cardboard and felt fabric and some wool our granny sent down.
Everyone's saying the dress is beautiful, Paige. And Danny and Wanda wanted to tell the girls good night. So.
Night,
Can I
Danny.
write down the
Wanda.
boxes to show them? Good night.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out then if I can find my other end. All right, so we will talk to you later.
See y'all.
Bye.
Ow! What did you do that for? You pulled